Guys, evening everybody. I'm just waiting for other persons to come. The list that they sent me now is 29. So we need to have at least, let me just check again for this evening's, I'm sure they said 29, right? I now have 20, yes, 29 students, so at least 14 or 15 persons need to be here before I begin the class. All right, so I'm here, I'm actually seeing the platform. So evening to everybody. I'm seeing Alternate, Trevor, Sharna, as well as Romario. All right, so I'm just waiting for other persons to join. Usually on when the class starts at 5, it takes people some time to begin. So we usually begin about 5:20, 5:15, 5:20, there about the latest 5:30, because persons are trying to get home or they're trying to get to class. All right, so let's wait a few more minutes. What I probably will do is just to put something in the chat that can occupy everybody's time for the time being. All right, so just give me a few minutes. Let me just hear one person say something to ensure that you heard me.
Yes, sir, we heard you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, guys.
Excuse me, sir? Mr. Clark?
Somebody call me?
No, I'm calling, sir.
Oh, okay.
I'm about to start, guys. 1 minute. I'm about to start. All right, so I'm seeing 11 persons. I know sometimes the number is not necessarily accurate in the fact that sometimes persons are logged in on 2 instruments. Okay, so I do have 11 students present. I'm actually also waiting on a delivery from Walmart. So I'm watching my phone too, because I can't miss it. All right, good evening, everybody. Yes, and I'm seeing getting some messages. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I like when you guys respond. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, what about the others? I'm not hearing the other voices. You can.
Good evening, classmates.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
All right, now I'm hearing everybody's voices. All right, so I'm seeing on the platform.
Hi, sir.
Hi. All right, noted, Trevor. I'm seeing on the platform, just want to call everybody's name. I'm seeing Alternate, Cameron, Carisha, Latona, Nicole, or Nicolette, sorry, Rona, this is Romario, Sharna K, Shelly-Ann Price. I always say Shelly-Ann Price, Razor. I don't know if they're related. Tony and Francis, Trevor Brown, Yannick Wiles. All right, so welcome everybody. Is there anyone who's new, who was not at the last class? Anyone is new? No, everybody was here at last class. Let me get my notes. Let's make sure that we went through everything. All right, so in the last class, we did some housekeeping. So there is a WhatsApp group. Everybody is a part of the one. All right, there's a hand up. Just give me 1 sec, Carisha. Everybody is a part of the WhatsApp group.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. And I shared the course outline in the WhatsApp group. Did persons got a chance to access it?
Yes, sir. I did.
Okay, good. Let me just show you that the one I showed you is actually, the one I shared is more current. They actually changed the assessment and is actually in keeping with just a practical exam. I think I have it on the, let me just make sure that I don't have anything on my platform open that you should not be privy to. Let's close that one. Certain things, let's close this. Those are confidential. Let's close this. Let's close this. Okay, so I think I can now share my screen. Let's share everything. Okay. Summer school, is this PR? Yes, it is general. Should be here. Right. All right, so you're seeing my screen, right, guys? should be seeing my screen.
Yes, sir.
All right, and as I said, this is the latest version of the course outline, and I'm going to put it on Canvas. Oh no, this is not the latest. Did I save it? I'm sure I did. All right, give me one sec, because it seemed as if, did I not save it? I'm sure I did. Why am I seeing the wrong one? Because I must thank Miss Dunn for sending me the latest one. So let me delete this dated one. I think this is the dated one.
Not a problem, sir.
Yes, sincere thanks. This is the updated one. Just want to point out a few things. Yes, I'm sure this is it. No. Okay, let's share back my screen. Give me one sec. I think that's the delivery people. Give me one sec, guys. All right, sorry about that. Just had to collect this stuff. All right, so this is the updated version of the course outline. And I just want to bring to your attention the assessment section. And anybody knows about what is called version control? Like when a document has version control, have you ever heard about that?
Yeah.
Yes? Right. So you have, right. So if you look here, it's version 1.1, updated June 2019, which means that this is the latest version of the course outline for the course. All right. So they removed that which was there before, and now you're only required to do a practical exam. All right, and it is in keeping with what I originally thought in terms of the assessment. This part of it, no, the press release will definitely form a part of it. When you do public relations, you do a lot of writing. Sometimes you do a lot of talking, but public relations, oftentimes you do far more writing than public speaking, or you work with creative teams, for example, a videographer or a content developer or a graphic artist, giving them directions in terms of the kinds of images or the kinds of content that you want to be created in order to kind of manage, or the kind of image you want to project in the marketplace, or how you want to position the company or the goodwill of the company in the marketplace, or how to protect the goodwill of a company, or how to develop and or maintain the goodwill of a company. They have also now they have updated the version of the text that is required. So it's now 2017, the practice of public relations. This is the 13th edition. And there are some websites here that you can use and some databases. I've asked the library to ensure that you have access to the text. I'm yet to hear back from them, but I'm sure you saw that I shared a link in the WhatsApp group. That is a version of a text that can give you a lot of information about the course. Any questions relating to to this, or is it clear? All right, seemingly clear. I don't think the rationale has changed. The course introduced learners to public relations, relevant theories, professional practices, ethical lenses. Oh, they kind of changed it, yeah. So the one before was more in keeping with the RTs and all of that, but this one now it's more centered around theories and professional practices and ethical concerns relating to public relations as a profession, and exploring it within the context of hospitality and tourism. So the description now is still the same, because I'm seeing the distinction between PR and marketing and publicity. I'm not sure if anybody knows Talisa Taylor. She actually has her own media, does her own media thing. Let me just see if I can. Anybody has ever heard of Talisa Taylor? She works alongside many entertainers. Talisa Taylor. I've actually emceed a few shows for her. Well, a few events, I should say. Well, let me go on videos. She does a lot of work. This is from 2015. What's her show called again? Can't remember her show. But I might invite her to talk a little bit about publicity. She's an expert at publicity, and she works in conjunction with many entertainers, especially dancehall artists, getting publicity and getting them the attention that they so need. So she might come in the mix in terms of helping us in understanding publicity. She's a practitioner, so it's always good to have persons like that. I might also invite Darren Henry, who used to read news. He's now the principal of Moby Community College, but he has been a broadcaster for a number of years and would have worked in public relations in many, at different levels. All right. So I might ask him as well to come in and just do some talks about public relations. And I will talk heavily, well, for the most part, about how, for example, new media is actually affecting how public relations is done. So social media, for example, how we're using these kinds of new media platforms to achieve our public relations function and achieve our objectives. And we're going to also look at public relations within the context of it being a management function. All right. So that's one thing. Just going back through just to make sure. We talked about that. And we did look at netiquette, I think. I think probably that's where we stopped. Oh yes, let's go back now and visit Canvas. Course modules. Right, so I'm sure you guys are still seeing my screen. So you notice now that there, is this my PR course? Oh Lord, which course, no, this is HE, yeah, it is. Right, so I kind of edited the part. I need to put in some information here in terms of my own background. And now you have information related to the course in general. I think this is the course outline. I'm almost sure. Yes, it is. Let me just make sure it's the same version that was, this is version. This version is not correct. This is May 2019. And the version I have is the latest one, because the version I showed you is right. Do we realize that this is a different version, because this is version 0.A, May 2019, and the one I showed you was June 2019, version 1.1. Am I correct? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk back to Dr. B to inform her that this version is actually the incorrect version that was uploaded to the system. Go back into modules. And of course, there's information unit 1, introduction to public relations. And I think she has to some extent added information throughout the course. All right. As well as, so that was one. When is our consultation and at what time? Can anybody remind me? Consultation and at what time? We said it in the last class.
The last 15 minutes of class.
Over into the hour, right? Yes. I also ask persons to pay attention to the discussion section of, so this is the first discussion, which is due by June 17. Today is the, oh, June 17 can't be due. Oh, not available until June 17, but it's due, must be done by June 29, which it means that it gives you a week to respond. All right. And it asks that you comment on at least 2 of your classmates' responses. And I can show you an example. Well, in my own study, let me just show you an example. I'm still kind of just cleaning up the housekeeping matters. So I'm doing this course with York University. This is my lecturer. I have to sign in. You're still seeing my screen, guys?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I have to go through some of the pains of logging in. So we do have a section called discussion, and how it is done is you comment. These are, so this is the lecturer, and these are, so here I am, and these are my quote unquote classmates, and we have to comment. So everybody writes and somebody comments. So you write and yeah, comment at least 2 persons. At least you have to, each person has to comment on at least 2 persons' responses. All right, so it's something that is very standard across the board. It helps you to keep abreast with the information. Yeah. The other thing is whether if persons have subscribed to the YouTube channel, because that is where you will get the recordings for the most part. I know persons are asking about Canvas, but if it is a data issue that you're concerned about, you would also need data to access Canvas or to access the recording on Canvas. I don't know. Well, I don't know why they have paused. I don't look my best there. But it's that's how you're able to access the recordings. And it would actually, so 5 persons, it actually lets me know if persons are interacting with the video. So 5 persons have viewed our lecture on Monday, because it says 5 views, right? So it gives me analytics to indicate to me whether or not persons are interacting with the recordings. All right. And you do have some students who will say, oh, sorry, you didn't put the recording on Canvas. And even when you put it on Canvas, the problem when I put it on Canvas, I can't know if persons are actually using or if persons are actually interacting with the recordings. So YouTube allows me to track or to get data, it's called data analytics. We spoke about the major project as well. Now I have 29 students, and I did say at least, well, no more than 7 per group. So let me just do my math. I am not the best at math. So 29 divided by that, at least 4 groups. All right, at least 4 groups. I did ask persons to indicate to me the group that you're working with or the group that you're in. Is that information available? Because some persons were saying that they were in the same class, or they were working with persons from previous courses and they already have their groups. So it's important that I get that information as quickly as is possible, because then I'm going to assign the artists that I have. I know there was a concern about a gospel artist. For the persons if there's a group that wants to do a gospel artist and only one group will have to do a gospel artist, you would have to find the artist, because I'm not able to find a gospel artist. All right, I can't think of somebody I grew up with is Kerry Sales. Kerry Sales is already kind of established, so I don't know that you could give him any more publicity or give him any more reach than he already has. I was Adventist, so I know Kerry. I can't think of anybody else. I know too that you can work with an artist who is kind of Rastafari or Rastafarian. So the person doesn't necessarily have to be a born-again Christian, because I'm sure many people here, you are Christian, but you don't work in quote-unquote Christian organizations. You work for private companies that are secular. In other words, they are not companies that embrace any particular religion. All right, so there's a way of how you can get it done. But if you insist on working with a gospel artist, I have no qualms, no problem with that. I would just ask that you source the artist, the up-and-coming artist, and then give me some information so that I can do my own checks to ensure that this is somebody with whom you can actually work and legitimate work can actually be done. All right. So that's one. The other thing, oh yes, so what I want for persons to do before I go any further, I would love for you to, let me just stop sharing screen because I think it's a little bit distracting. I'd love for you to give me the list with the group members and preferably email it. So is it that we have worked out our groups, or I know there are only 16 persons here now, so it could be that some of your group members are not here, but if you know who those persons are, then that can possibly work. So do we know our group members, or are we still kind of working that out?
So we have our group members already.
All right, so just shoot me an email, Tonian, that would be good. So remember, the group is up no more than 7, okay?
Okay.
Yes. So you guys just work it out. You don't have to necessarily send me the email right now. I'll give you can send it during the break. Just remind me that we need to take a break at it's 5:40 at 6 o'clock in Jamaica time, okay? Let's take a 10 minutes break at on the hour. I think I've spoken about that. We spoke about Canvas. Just want to make sure that yes.
Good evening. Just for clarity, I just came in. You're saying that we can choose an artist and then you did a background check, or you will provide us with an artist?
So only for the in the last class, there was 1 or 2 persons who were concerned that, they were saying that what if they don't want to work with a secular artist, they would want to work with an up-and-coming gospel artist. I don't have any objections to that, but you would have to source that gospel artist because I was not able to. The other artists that you're going to work with, I've already sourced them and they have been briefed. So they're actually expecting you to reach out to them,
sir,
for meetings and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And I deliver.
So you'll assign one to each group?
Yes. So how I'm going to do it, I'm going to kind of do it like a raffle. So I'm going to give everybody the letter, like the letter that begins with the artist's name, and then you're going to tell me which letter you like.
Okay.
And then that's how we'll assign the artists to the group. And these are persons who are, who are very respectful and everything, and they actually need some amount of public relations to get the word out and to get their face and name out there. And many times when you are the quote unquote the product, you will not be able to see or will not be able to create many opportunities for yourself. But when you meet with a group of individuals sometimes they can actually bring different insights, and sometimes they have connections that you don't have. All right. So when, for example, one
Okay,
of the
sir.
artists is my adopted nephew, is not my biological nephew, but because of the interaction with the family, is my adoptive nephew, and really, really talented. I won't tell you who that person is. Really, really talented, but you know, sometimes it takes it's very difficult for anybody to kind of enter into entertainment or enter into whether it be dancehall or reggae space. It's very, very difficult. And if you interview many of the artists, they will tell you that when I was doing my master's at UWI, I interviewed Tommy Lee Sparta. I actually wrote a paper about Tommy Lee Sparta, using him as an example to understand cultural hybridity in Jamaica. And he will tell you how difficult it was for him to kind of boss, quote unquote. You will know the same thing for Shensia, when in 2017 she performed for a group of for a set of my students. They had organized an event. I was teaching them, I think it was events management, a course. At that point in time, she wasn't she wasn't a household name. It was very difficult. So she was very willing to go on every and any platform to be heard. And that's how we got. I'm sure now we would not get her because she's now, you know, this big global sensation to some extent. And when you talk to other people, when you talk to other people, for example, what's his name? Kaledo now is an artist who is kind of struggling, you know, kind of trying to get his footing, you know, made a name for himself, lost his footing, and since he lost his footing, he has always never been able to kind of come back around. All right, so there are so many examples. So that's your job. Your job now is to go there and look at the artist as a product and say, okay, how can I, quote unquote, launch this product? All right. Yeah. So let's get into the business now of public relations. We're going to try to understand what is public relations and all of that. So the objectives for today, I'm going to go back to the course outline before I go to my lecture, just to kind of help you to understand what are the core objectives of today's session. So under Unit 1, we want to be able to explain the various definitions of public relations. And you're going to see that there are myriad ways of how public relations is defined through different lenses. Some of it is historical, outline the important events in the history of public relations. We'll be looking at that as well. We want to analyze the areas of practice. And there are several areas. You have publicity, public affairs, advertising, lobbying, press agency, issues management, crisis management, investor relations. There are so many areas of practice. And usually, if you study public relations, you quote unquote measure in an area. Some people are crisis managers. Some people are, they work in press agencies. Some people are they measure in publicity. And then you examine the role of public relations in an organization. And then know what probably, when we reach to this stage, this is where I might ask you to talk about your own company. And if it is that there's a public relations officer, and if there is not a public relations officer, why do you think your company needs a public relations officer, and where that public relations officer would fit within the organizational structure? All right, where exactly is the person going to be a part of senior management, middle management, line staff, you know, that kind of thing. So we're going to have a robust discussion about that. So there are several, as I said before, discussions and definitions of public relations. So these are our core objectives for this class into the next class. Let me locate my lecture. Week 1, where did I put it? Is it here?
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I had log off in order to make the trek home. Now I am home. So
Very
I
nice.
can speak to you. Sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we fourth-year students were kind of unsure as to what elective we were supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I noticed that there are not a lot of students in your class. I'm wondering if all the fourth year are really supposed to be here and not with special events management. Because this is the course that was put on our timetable.
I am not sure. I would have to ask Dean Black as well as the timetabling officer. They're the ones who assign the course, the students who are supposed to be in the course. I'm just asked to teach the course, and then the students, I'm just given a list of students. So what I can do, if you kind of send me, you can private message me on WhatsApp, and then I can query as well, just to find out what is the situation. But I know this is a course that I think is almost compulsory for especially tourism students. I'm almost sure, don't quote me.
Oh, so
because
we're not tourism, we're business.
Right. So business students and tourism, because there are two sets of students who would normally do this course. Finalizing students in business, in SOBES, and the finalizing students in
Oh,
HM.
so maybe this is where we really are supposed to be.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
What I can do, when you're sending me the private message, just indicate the school so I can reach out to Mr. Riley.
Okay, sir. I am not a part of your WhatsApp group.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can send me an email if you want. If you choose to send me
sir.
an email, that's not an issue. All right.
I will do that, sir. What I would like to ask you is the composition of this course. Does it have a final exam?
So no, there's no final exam. The final exam is the practical. So the practical part that you're going to execute over time is the actual exam.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Thank you.
No problems. So public relations. So again, we go back to the learning objectives, and this is a lecture that I'm using, coming from the University of the West Indies. But pretty much the same lecture. All persons who teach public relations is the same book they actually use. Is the same information. Sometimes it's just branded. People put on their logos on it and claim it as their own. But as you can see here, it is really Pearson education. We spoke about the objectives, so I'm not going to necessarily go back through that. And I did say to you that I, for example, worked as the public relations officer for Excelsior between 2015 and 2020. And right after, I was asked to head the marketing department. So I've had extensive work experience in PR. I had to learn a lot, because some of it I was never trained in PR, and I literally had to be doing courses all over the place and learn it from persons. So public relations. So one of the things that I want you to be very mindful of is that public relations is a management function. All right. And when you hear management, you're supposed to be thinking about what do you think about when you hear the word management? What comes to mind?
To control, to lead, to oversee.
Right. So you're talking about controlling, you're talking about leading, you're talking about evaluating. Yes. So that's part of what public relations is about, is really to control how the public, or the perception of the public, of your brand, or of a brand, or of a company, or of your goods, or of our services, right? So that's one way of looking at public relations. As a management function, you're also talking about leading, in the sense that you are taking charge of how people perceive your brand and the kinds of relationships that you develop, but not only develop, but maintain with the persons who have an interest in your company, or in your brand, or in your goods, or in your services. So this says public relations is the management function that establishes and maintains mutually beneficial relationships between an organization and the publics on whom its success or failure depends. A perfect example of this is Excelsior Community College and its students. It has to be that Excelsior not only establishes, but maintains a mutually beneficial relationship between itself and the students that it serves. It not only serves students, it also serves its staff, but I'm talking specifically about students now. One way of how they have to, quote unquote, maintain this beneficial relationship is to ensure that the students have a very good experience while they are at the institution. So is it, for example, that you feel that you're getting you're getting value for your dollar? Do you think, for example, that your lecturers themselves are professional? Are they knowledgeable? Are they responsive? Are they industry trained? Are they themselves practitioners? because they do have instances where you have persons who are teaching budgeting, but they have never written an actual budget. You have persons who are teaching marketing, but they have never marketed anything. I'm sure you know this, right, guys? And I'm not bashing Excelsior in general, but you have a lot of teachers in the classroom are teaching about things that they themselves have never done. So that's one way of how they, quote unquote, manage the relationship. The relationship is beneficial for them because one, they're collecting your money. Two, you become ambassadors on behalf of the brand, but also two, you benefit in the sense that you get certification, not only certification, but you get added skills, soft skills. So of course, it is a mutually beneficial relationship. The success of Excelsior is also dependent on this relationship between itself and its students, and not just its students, but also other stakeholders who have an interest. A stakeholder is anybody or group that has an interest in a company or a brand or an entity, right? So the success is based on the level of the graduation rate. So how many students do we enroll in year one? How many students do we have after they have enrolled in year one, go all the way to year 4 and actually graduate? How many of our students actually become successful after graduation? So it's not just graduating, because if you graduate, if your students graduate and they end up at only call centers, then something is wrong. That's not much of a success, unless when they go to the call center, they are the ones who are part of management. It is also the relationship can fail depending on how Excelsior treats its stakeholders. For example, if students do not feel that they're valued or that their opinions matter or that they are being offered value for the dollars that they pay for their tuition, then they might go out and become persons who badmouth the institution. Am I making sense? So it is very, very, very important for us to understand public relations as a management function between, I always like to put it, between a business or a company or an entity and the persons or groups that it serves. So public relations conducts a planned and sustained program by an organization's management. So in an organization, for example, I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard about a strategic plan. Anybody has ever heard about a strategic plan?
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. Sir. So you have something that is called a strategic plan. And in the strategic plan, you have what are called strategic objectives. And let me give you an example. I like to just throw in a few examples so that you can fully understand. Okay. Let me see, I'm just going to go a little faster. Not short courses, women C, strategic, no, I need to go back. Strategic planning, the latest version. Where's our latest version? This is the latest version. So this is an example of a strategic plan, and we have what are called strategic objectives. You know, I'm not going to go through all of the other things. Let me just make sure that I haven't passed the strategic objectives. No. Framework, value, right? So it's strategic objectives are strategic goals. One of the strategic goals is to improve, for example, service delivery. That's a part of public relations. In other words, what are your how do your customers feel about your institution when they have interacted with, for example, frontline staff in, let us say, in student affairs, right? How many of your students, for example, have been given the opportunity to participate in international opportunities, not just work and travel, but students are getting, for example, scholarships to study in Canada, whether they're studying for 1 semester or a full academic year. How many students of Excelsior go on, for example, international internship? Even in our graduate program that we now have at Excelsior, we are trying to develop, I don't think it has been signed off yet, this notion where you have graduate international internship. All of that comes under the banner of public relations. So your strategic plan helps to guide the public relations objectives and strategies that are developed over time. Just wanted to point that out.
So when this was speaking to the whole notion of conducts a planned and sustained program by an organization's management, that's part of it. A public relations involve doing research. And when I say do research, I don't mean just reading, going online, going on Google and collecting, reading, getting secondary information, but actually carrying out, for example, brand equity research to get a sense of how is it that people feel about the brand. It means too that a public relations officer, the public relations department has to work in concert with other departments because it is a management function. So marketing might carry out the brand equity research and then hand it over to public relations and say, okay, this is how the public feels about Excelsior. What can we do to change it? If it has a negative perception of Excelsior, what can we do to improve the image of the college? I'm sure, and I keep using Excelsior because it is home and this is where we are. It's one of the best examples to use. I'm sure you guys would have heard about the shooting incident on campus. Yes?
Yes, sir.
And of course, we had to go into damage control mode because that's a crisis. The PR officer now has to step in as the crisis manager. How is it that we assure the public that the physical campus or physical campuses are safe? Sometimes the public relations officer does not necessarily have to release a statement on behalf of the institution, but they work in concert with, for example, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, who will give out the statement instead of allowing the institution because they might reveal sensitive information. So public relations deals with relationships between an organization and its stakeholder publics. And I keep saying this, that part of the stakeholder or a stakeholder is anybody, group or entity that has an interest in your organization, and also any group, individual or body that can affect the success and or failure of an organization. So even when you look at in the context of a reggae artist or a dancehall artist, they have publics too, they're fans. So when, for example, what's her name again? She said that she would have voted for Donald Trump. Can't remember her name. It caused a big problem, and she later apologized because her music does not reflect anything that would suggest racism. And then she had to go into damage control. I don't know how well she has Itana, yes. She had to go into damage control mode. I don't know how much she has recovered because I don't know. I'm not seeing her on any major Jamaican platforms in terms of performance. I could be wrong because I don't live in Jamaica anymore, but I still follow the news and I still keep abreast. I don't know that she was at Bounty Killer, for example, Bounty Killer's 50th celebration. I don't know the latest or the last event I've seen her on. I don't know. I haven't seen anything. I don't know if that may have affected her brand or brand equity. Public relations monitors awareness, opinions, attitudes, and behaviors inside and outside an organization. So the public relations officer, many times as a manager, has to work with the human resource manager or director of human resource, because it could be that some staff members are not happy with the work culture or the work environment. And they feel that they are, for example, being shortchanged. They might strike, right? They might strike. So the PR officer says, hello, we can't allow this to become a crisis. It's going to affect the image of the company. HR, what are you doing? Or we call senior management meeting. What are you guys doing? We can't allow this to go out, right? Think about, tell me a company in Jamaica that we all hate.
Flow.
JPS.
I think JPS is at the top. I think JPS is at the top. But let me ask you this question though. has JPS been doing over time to somewhat mitigate or lessen the negative perceptions of the company? They have been doing stuff, guys. So even though you're silent, they have been doing things.
Provide energy saving tips.
Yes, so one, they're providing energy saving tips. That's part of public relations. Anything else?
Sir, I think they came out with this thing that pay as you go, something like that.
Yes, pay as you go. Yes, because again, people complain about bills. Anything else? Yeah, do other things, guys. Anything else, guys? You can't think of anything else? So they don't. I'm almost sure they offer scholarships. I'm almost sure they offer scholarships. I am almost sure that they sponsor events like, you know, football competition. And I am almost sure they have a foundation. I'm almost sure they have a foundation. But the point I'm making is that they are taking steps to lessen or to the severity of the negative perception of the company. At one point, it got so bad, I think I'm almost sure it was an arsonist that lit one of their buildings. I think it was a building in Half-Tree. I'm not sure if you guys remember some years ago when the building was on fire. Anybody remembers that? Don't tell me I'm
No, sir.
Yes, there's a big fire, and it came at a time when people were complaining bitterly about JPS bills. And I said, you know what, somebody's going to do something crazy, and somebody did something crazy. All right, another thing, another way of how companies now monitor opinions and awareness and attitudes. Have you ever heard the term social listening? Anybody has ever heard the term social listening?
No, sir.
Can you Google and tell me what you find? What is social listening? Tell me what Google says.
Social listening, also referred to as social media listening, is the process of identifying and assessing what is being said about a company, individual, product, or brand on the internet.
Thank you. So that again is part of the job of a public relations officer. You have to be monitoring the sentiments of customers. Sometimes these are not even customers, of individuals who are talking about your brand. I know there are several softwares that that help people to do social listening. Let me see if I can find some of the names. I actually did it as a part of my course. I know Hootsuite is one that you can use for social listening. And there's some others. I don't necessarily have to find all of it now, but if you just type in softwares that aid with social listening, you can find them. So you find that, again, public relations play a significant role in terms of monitoring what is being said about a company online or on the internet. It's very, very important, no more than before, because many companies have gone very overly digital. Public relations analyzes the impact of policies, procedures, and actions on stakeholder publics to identify those that conflict with the public interest and organizational survival. Can you think of any example in relation to analyzes the impact of policies, analyzes the impact of procedures, analyzes the impact of actions on stakeholder publics? I will give you one, and I want for persons to think about some other examples. Right now, there's a discussion, there's a proposal by the Ministry of Education about the implementation of the Jamaica Teaching Council bill. And that bill will raise the code of conduct for teachers. Teachers now will be required to have, at minimum, a bachelor's degree. They will have to be teacher trained, and to some extent, they must have a bachelor's of education. And the Jamaica Teaching Association says, oh my God, what are you doing? You know, this is going to affect teachers negatively, especially since some are in the classroom who don't have a bachelor's in education, or who just have a teaching diploma. And there's a big discussion about it on Facebook, for example, primarily on Facebook. And people are saying, oh my God, you need to rethink this, because teachers are going to be negatively affected. And why is it that the government is always going against teachers? So that is an example now. So the ministry now has to find a way to manage the discussion or the flow of the discussions surrounding that particular bill. And it's a policy. Let's say the policy that morphs into a bill. It's a bill that will affect the livelihood and the likelihood of teachers. So the ministry has organized a series of, they did a series of consultation, but now they now realize that again, there's need for further consultation with different stakeholder groups, right? So that's an example of how public relations now help to analyze the impact of policies on the various, on public interest, because in the case of the publics now, it would be teachers, parents, students, and all of that, all right? Can you think of any example as it relates to whether it be policies, procedures, or actions? I am listening. The silence is deafening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm thinking of two current situations. One, the recent change or trajectory of our government with regards to the education and the transition from fifth form to sixth form for all students.
Right, perfect, yes.
That has caused a lot of uncertainty, a lot of disagreement. Parents feel like they have been bypassed, we're not consulted, the relevant background work was not done properly. Students feel like, why weren't we consulted? We are the major stakeholders in this whole process. Why did no one consult us with regards to what we would like to do? Because not all of us would like to go straight to sixth form. Some of us want to go overseas. We want to go into a college earlier or stuff like that. And I've seen where the Minister of Education are trying to do some background. It's like they're working in the reverse. So the kind of level of consultation and involvement with the relevant stakeholders, I don't think it was properly done. And they're trying to go on this, they have gone on this major information, I would say, public relations, where they're trying to get more stakeholders involved. They're trying to explain what they're doing and the options that are available. They're trying to, I would say they're trying to do what they should have done in the first place.
Right.
Get all stakeholders involved.
A very, very good example. That's a perfect example. And I'm very much aware of that situation, because I was a part of, when I was the head of marketing, it was my job to promote the program. I think you had a second example.
yes. The recent, well, it has not been put in as a bill as yet, but the Ministry of National Security. Well, it's not the ministry. There's a new ministry that has been formed, led by Malo Fort, and they want to eventually deny bail to persons who have committed murders, and that has caused problems. For the defense lawyers are concerned, human rights persons are concerned. So that is causing a problem as well. And I've seen where even today I was reading where she's asking the public not to come to a conclusion about the matter. Do not just object. Give her some time to give some time to listen, wait on the bail, or she's asking for some time. But I think in general, I don't know. I think sometimes the government work a little bit back. What you should have done is to do an educational thing first, and bring it to the public, test the water, see how people respond before we do things. So we're doing things in the reverse. So that is causing an issue as well.
Right. So perfect examples, perfect examples. And in other words, she's in damage control mode. She's in damage control mode. And because when I first heard about it, I said I'm no lawyer, but I know that constitutionally that will not hold water. I said, I think because there have been so many cries by Jamaicans about the spiraling crime rate, the government sometimes seems a little bit reactive, and may I labor right, but it's true. They seem a little bit reactive instead of actually sitting down and properly plan. And as you said before, quite correctly, that they're working in reverse. So those are two very, very, very good examples. And this would actually analyze the impact of the actions of the government on the public. In other words, if you are going to deny bail of certain accused persons, what if the person was wrongly accused? What if you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Let us say, for example, I come to Jamaica, I take a taxi, I'm in the car, 3 guns are in the car. I don't know that the guns are in the car. Police stops the car, police stop the car. I'm arrested, I'm denied bail because gun possession. But I was not possessing any gun. I was just a passenger. But the police are not convinced that I was just a passenger. They think that I was a willing participant. So again, these are the kinds of things. So the public relations officer has to be working overtime. And many companies, they usually don't think about PR. They usually don't allow PR to sit in the room. Sometimes is when there's a crisis. Then they say, oh my God, let's get somebody out of the public relations department to fix this problem. Sometimes it is too difficult to fix because the problem has spiraled out of control and it's going to take a much longer time to fix. I can think of another very bad, what I would call very, very bad public relations, and I think it's going to affect her career going forward forever, is Amber, I think her name is Amber Hart. The case against Johnny Depp, and she lost. And there were so many negative.
Amber Heard, sir.
Amber Heard, yes. Yeah, and there are so many negative, she got so much negative press because everybody said she's just a big liar. So their image now out in the public domain is that she is a liar. I'm not sure. She fired one public relations team company. She has hired a new one. I don't know if that will help. I see them trying to do things. So now she's doing interviews. I think she's trying to kind of lessen the blow, quote unquote, or try to change the narrative in the public domain about her being a liar. And then she's even now saying that she's still in love with Johnny Depp, things like that. I think she's being advised by her PR firm. So public relations does that. Can you think of another company in Jamaica that was originally perceived in a very, very negative way, but has used PR to slowly chisel away at the negative perceptions of the entity or of the body. And I actually asked him to, one of the persons who, the actual PR officer for the company is going to come and do a guest lecture. I actually asked him, he's a relatively good friend of mine. Which company, which entity, let's say public body or public, let's say public body or public company that has used public relations to its advantage. Originally, they were not seen good, but they have used PR to some extent to kind of chisel away at the negative perceptions. The acronym starts with J.
JCF?
JCF. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree, because they started doing a thing, you know, like putting out stuffs. I don't even remember, but I think it's very gravitating, you know. So yeah.
So the Jamaica Constabulary Force actually now has a public relations officer, and they have different spokesperson. There are different people who speak on behalf of the organization. One such person is my very good friend, Sean J. Mitchell. He's always on TVJ giving interviews about, you know, different things. Many times when you see them putting out, for example, you know, they have arrested different people based on this and that. All of that is PR. All of that is PR because they want to give the public a sense that we are still in control. We are still doing something about crime. All right. We might not be perfect, but we are doing something, and also trying to build trust in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Even the trial with the Klansman gang, as much as some of these gangsters have been released, some people are not so much blaming the Jamaica Constabulary Force, but they're now saying, but hold on, Judge, mind you in a something, you know. I'm not saying that the judge is, but I'm just telling you how it is being played out in the public domain. So the Jamaica Constabulary Force has really, over time, chiseled away at the blanket negative perception of the entity, in terms of alleviating or addressing the crime wave. So public relations counsels management to establish new policies, new procedures, and actions that benefit both the organization and its publics. Can anybody think of an example in relation to this one? Counsels management to establish new policies, procedures, and actions that benefit both the organization and its publics. Anybody can think of an example? Or do you want me to give you an example, then you give me an example?
Sure, sir. Give us an example.
Okay, so in this case, in terms of an example, let me think of an example, and I'll think of an example in. So one, you can think of something as simple as an award ceremony, right? Where you have graduation, yes, but at some point in time, the PR officer said, we also need to recognize the academic achievement of students who are not yet graduating, but who have stood the test of time and performed exceptionally well over time. That's an example where management was counseled into developing new policies. Another example you can think of is where sometimes workers at a particular company complain about always getting contracts. You know, we're only contract workers and we're not getting certain benefits. And over time, management has slowly reduced the level of contract and move people over into the establishment, because of course they want their workers to have a positive perception of the company, because when workers are satisfied, they do very well and the company actually benefits. All right, so those are some examples of that. Let's take a 10 minutes break and we come back at 6:31. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we should be back by now. Just type in the chat, hi, let me know that you're still here. Amber Heard, thank you very much, Romario. Type something in the chat, people, say hi. Yes, let me see about 20 highs because I'm seeing a whole lot of students. Hi or here, whichever one works for you.
Hi.
Only 4, where are the others?
Here.
Just to make sure that you're still with us. All right, so most people are still here. Yeah, so council's management to establish new policies, procedures, and actions that benefit both the organization and its publics. We talked about that. The other thing that public relations does is establishes and maintains two-way communication between the organization and its publics. And this is primarily done through, for example, press releases, interviews, so interviews, if you want to call it media relations, TV appearances, appearing on talk shows, or no, we have different platforms. You know, have YouTube channels. So many companies now have their own YouTube channel, and they use it as a platform for communication between themselves and their publics. You can use even social media now, whether it be Facebook or social networking sites, Facebook, Instagram, for example. That's where many companies are now maintaining that two-way communication between themselves and their companies. So public relations produces measurable changes in awareness, opinion, attitude, and behavior inside and outside the company. And again, what happens is that they oftentimes work in concert with the marketing team, or if they want to do it, they carry out research. A perfect example would be a brand equity research, just to gauge public sentiment relating to the perception of a particular brand or an organization. I think if we were to do something similar with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, I think I'm almost sure that there is the perception of Jamaicans of the Jamaica Constabulary Force has significantly improved. Originally, they used to allow every and any police officers to be interviewed by the media. Now they have specific persons. There's a communication arm that speaks on behalf of the organization. The way they are now putting out a lot of statistical data when they make arrests, when they make stops, when they have operations in various parts of the country, when they need the assistance of the public in terms of stemming the crime wave. And that in and of itself has helped to mitigate or to chisel away at the perception of the organization. I don't know if JPS has successfully done so, but I know that they try to use PR as their way to educate the public about how to save energy and to inform the public that they're not just this wicked, evil entity that overcharges persons, but they do give back in terms of sponsoring events, for example, football competitions, and also paying, helping students to access education, whether it be at the secondary or tertiary level through scholarships. Public relations results in new and or maintained relationships between an organization and its publics. That is very true. So the first part results in new relationships between an organization and its publics. There are many times when you might broaden the reach or the scope of an organization. So originally you were only catering to men. It could be that now you're catering to men and women, and as a result, they become a part of your publics. They become a stakeholder who can affect the success and or failure of your brand. It could be that, for example, in the case of Canada, you find that this is, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the context of Canada and even many other developed countries, there's something called Pride Month. Anybody knows or have ever heard about Pride Month?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, we are silent. We can talk. You can talk, guys. Talk. And in the context of Canada, you find that many companies now, they are very responsive to the fact that members of the LGBTQ, and they have so many different alphabetical letters, I can't keep up, that they try to indicate to the public that they care about these particular individuals and that they cater to their needs. So I'm a member of TD Bank, and during this month, all of TD Bank's commercials are very specific to that particular minority group, because they're seen as a minority group. Outside of that, you have Black History Month. So when there's Black History Month, for example, you have many organizations that cater to the needs of Black people. If you have Netflix, for example, Netflix now caters to, they slice their audiences now in terms of, not just in terms of regions in the world or countries in the world, but even in terms of ethnic or racial identity. So you have something called Black lead roles. So if you want to see movies that are predominantly where the lead actors are Black, then there's an option for you on Netflix, and that's a way of how Netflix is indicating that they are catering to the different needs of their publics, and how they maintain the relationship between themselves and their publics. Another example I can think of, I actually just had the example in my head, but it kind of missed. Netflix, I can't remember the other example, but I had a different example in my head. Oh yes, the other one, for example, is organizations that were predominantly white in terms of its employees, and they had, and no Black or minority or non-white people are working there, and how they have to then develop an equity policy, sensitizing their staff to diversity in the workplace. And this is actually a very big thing in Canada. Even the university I work at, it's a very, very big thing, because when there are instances of racism, if that goes public, that can really damage the image of a company. And many companies do not want that, all right, because it can affect, for example, donation, it can affect how the government responds, or how the government treats them as a body. There are different peoples from across the world that are coming to Canada to study in different places. So they are very sensitive to that. I remember I was working at this language center, big language center in Canada, and I experienced racism from a teacher herself who's from Africa, but she's from Egypt. So she's Persian. So she's not Black, but she's African. And I was actually very shocked. And I went to the director of the company, who is white, and I explained to him what was the situation. And he was actually very surprised. And I said to him that it is something that incumbent on the company to ensure that they sensitize staff to diversity. I was the only Black person in they have several locations, but the 2 locations that I worked at, I was the only Black teacher. And I experienced overt, well, not overt, but more covert forms of racism. She was a little bit more overt. So these are the kinds of things. So sometimes a company does not even have a public relations officer, but public relations in and of itself must be there. Many times it is an ad hoc approach where the director kind of is a quasi public relation officer, and they say, okay, he's the person or she's the person who's authorized to speak on behalf of the organization. So you see that it really does results in new relationships, and also results in maintaining relationships. All right. Everything is okay so far. Are we understanding? Are we kind of understanding?
Yes,
sir.
sir. Understanding.
Any questions, any comments, any concerns? We're not very vocal today. What's happening? You were very vocal in the previous class. We are now so silent. You're not hearing, Venice, you said that you're not hearing me? Or some persons, so Ramari is on his way home. Is it, am I low to everybody? Venice is saying, I'm low. Miss Harris is saying, am I low?
I'm hearing you perfectly fine.
perfectly.
Can somebody else tell me
I'm
how I
hearing you
sound? Are you
fine,
hearing me
sir.
clearly and
I'm
loudly?
hearing you
or loud enough?
clearly, sir. Perfectly fine.
Come on, guys, somebody say something or type in the
Sir,
chat.
are you hearing?
Sir, are you hearing us? Because we're talking.
Sir?
Are you guys hearing me clearly, guys? I just want to make sure that I am not talking to
Yes,
myself.
sir.
It would defeat
Are
the
we
purpose of the
hearing? Are you
class.
hearing us?
No, I'm not hearing. Are you guys talking? I'm.
Yes, we're
Oh, you guys are
talking.
hearing. So They are talking, but I'm not hearing anything. Did I do something wrong? Or hold on. All right, can somebody say we are talking? Say something, guys. Let me see.
Are you
Did
hearing
I
us?
press something?
We're
Sir, we're
talking.
talking.
Mic
Are
is
you
not muted
hearing
because you
us?
guys
Are
are
you
hearing me.
hearing?
Yes.
And I suppose you guys are still talking. All right, let me try something, a different, that's strange. Let me see if this works better. Your default microphone is linked to, All right, are you hearing me? No?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Hearing you clearly. Are you
Yes.
hearing us?
I'm clear and no.
You're hearing us, sir?
Yeah, I'm just hearing you know. I don't know what happened with that, with my earphone. Something might have gone wrong.
Yeah, so you had us muted?
Oh, you're unmuted, but you can unmute yourself, can't you?
Yes, sir, we
No,
can.
I'm asking,
Sir,
sir,
we were
because we were
talking.
talking and you weren't hearing us at all.
No, I think it was actually I think it was more the earphone, because I never no, I'm using this and I'm hearing you and you're hearing me. So I think it was the previous instrument that I was using.
Okay, so
Yeah, I don't like this though. It's just this big old ugly thing over my head. I really don't like it. Even at work, they want me to wear this thing, and my supervisor and I, we always getting that tumble about it. I actually don't like this thing over my ears. All right, so we see that public relation plays a number of roles in an organization. You know, monitoring perception, trying to influence perception. You know, carrying. One sec. God, I leave food on the stove. I don't want the fire thing to go off. This is why my girlfriend should not have gone to work. All right. Yeah, so now we go on to the whole notion of, you know, where there's some amount of blurred lines. You know, there's always this tussle between marketing and public relations, or the marketing department and the public relations department. There's always a turf war. And I used to get into those kinds of turf wars with my colleagues. At the time, it was Dr. Robert Ho, who was the marketing officer. It wasn't Dr. Ho at the time, it was Robert Ho at the time. He was the marketing officer, I was the public relations officer. And there are times I was sure about what fell under my, as a part of my desk. But there are times when other people were not. He was also certain, but there are times when other people were not. For example, graduation. You know, people were like, is graduation really the responsibility of marketing, or is graduation the responsibility of public relations? And I say graduation is a public relations activity because we're not selling anything, right? Is award ceremony marketing, or is award ceremony public relations? There's always this toss and tumble about where some of the things, some of the activities that were being done on the campus, where do they fall? And you have this kind of confusion as well in many companies in terms of marketing and public relations. So marketing as well is a management function. It is also a management function. This definition says is the management function that identifies human needs and wants, offers products and services to satisfy those demands, and causes transactions that deliver products and services to users in exchange for something of value to the provider. So one, it says identifies human needs and wants. Many times, public relations does not need to do that. It does not necessarily have to satisfy a need. All it needs to do is to protect the image of the company. That's really its vested interest. Offer products and services. Public relations is not really in the business of selling the goods and services of a company. In relation to Excelsior, yes, we offer the service of education, but how public relations work is marketing sells the programs, but public relations sells the experience. That's what we sell, quote unquote sell. Public relations is about the experience of the students. So graduation, that's a big PR event where we try to, you know, our valedictorian, we try to get the brightest student to kind of make a public statement, try to get the person on TV, we try to get a press release, we try to invite, for example, the Prime Minister to be the guest speaker. All of that is public relations. That is not about selling any programs or any products, right? This definition again says, and causes transactions that deliver products. Again, public relations, for the most part, does not involve the exchange of money. There are times when you do have to spend to accomplish a public relations goal. And I'll give you an example, especially with new media. Let me see if I can find a very good example, but I usually close the thing, Facebook. Okay. Come on, where's Excelsior? So let me share back screen. And so we use Facebook a lot at Excelsior. This is before my time. So ECC nursing students collaborated Food for the Poor on Hypertension Day 2020. This is public relations. This is not marketing, because they're not selling the program. What we're putting out there is the experience of the students. So if you join us, you also can be a part of this rewarding experience. This is PR. This is not marketing. This is marketing. Have a question? WhatsApp us, because when you WhatsApp us, we're going to sell you the programs, right? This is marketing. This is public relation, ECC Open Day. This is not marketing. Again, we are showcasing to the world that we have different programs and that there are so many options for students, right? So we're not selling any programs, we're just broadcasting or showcasing the experience of a particular day. In terms of selling now, how sometimes public relations can be expensive is that you might have to pay for the media time. So let's just say that you want a Miss Kitty to MC your open day, because Miss Kitty has a lot of goodwill in the marketplace, or a lot of goodwill with your stakeholders or with the demographic that you go after. She might charge you $250,000 for the day. So it is PR, but you have to pay for the MC. So there's a cost to it. Research day, more public relations again. When you have public relations, this now is marketing, because you're selling phlebotomy, right? So you're using what are called social media networks. This in the case of this, in this case is Facebook. You can use it for marketing to achieve your marketing objectives, and you can use it to achieve your public relations objectives. Make sense, guys? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right, let me just go back to the lecture. So again, marketing causes transactions that deliver products and services to users in exchange for something of value to the provider, right? So most times the value that is exchanged is a monetary value. So you satisfy the need and or want of the customer, and they give you value in return in terms of money. All right. Many times public relations does not involve, identifying needs and wants, offering products and services, causing involves transactions, involves the exchange of something of value. Because when we go back, if we go back to our definition of public relations and what public relations is about, one, we said establishes and maintains two-way communication between the organization and its publics. That has nothing necessarily to do with any kind of exchange of money or any sort of transactions. Produces measurable changes in awareness, opinion, attitude, and behavior. That again is different from marketing, right? If we go back again, it says analyzes the impact of policies, procedures, and actions. These are things sometimes that has nothing to do with money, but has to do with, for example, government policies that will affect the general public as a whole. It could be that these are policies and procedures that are coming out from the bank. Let's just say National Commercial Bank, they say, for example, that they are going to close down a location. So, we're going to close our branch in Savla. Let me just say St. Catherine, because I'm been up so early, my brain sometimes, my cognitive skill is not as sharp as it should be. But they say, for example, that they're closing a location in St. Catherine. That is more public relations, because it is an action that will affect the persons who are they serve in that area. Right? It has not the actual announcement itself is not for commercial benefit. It's really for awareness. Public relation again says councils management to establish policies and all of that. So I go back just to show you the distinction between marketing and public relations. I want for you to really appreciate and understand that there's a significant difference between the two. Do we understand that?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And then we get into now different parts. So you have public relations, marketing, and you have publicity. Some people actually argue that publicity is a part of public relations. So publicity is information by an outside source that is used by the media because the information has news value. Publicity is uncontrolled method of placing messages in the media because the source does not pay the media outlets for the placement. So most times things that go viral, many things that go viral are part of, would fall under the ambit of publicity. There was one, it's a very unfortunate one. I'm sure you have heard about Popcorn's brother was allegedly caught doing, eating some things, the forbidden fruit, quote unquote. That's publicity. Another example I can think of is, what's the other one again? I actually had it in my head. When Spice, you remember when Spice, when she allegedly bleached her skin?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, and she removed all the images, all her quote unquote, the images of her being black from her Instagram account. That was publicity because what she was really doing was toying with the media and trying to, this big announcement about her album and all of that. That was publicity. And you do, sometimes even when you hear that artists are having rivalry, it is all made up. It's publicity. It's for them to get attention in the media without paying for it.
That's what you call a publicity stunt, sir? Is the same thing?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
So publicity in and of itself plays a significant role in the lives of artists. I'm sure you remember too when they said that Alkaline, he had removed this, what did they say about Alkaline again? Tattooed his eyeball. I tell you, I need to get some sleep. I can't remember these things. When Alkaline tattooed his eyeball, he was trying to use publicity to get media attention. He had some amount of success at the time. That was a publicity stunt for him to get media attention. And as I said to you before, there are some persons who are publicists who that's their job. Their job is to create quote unquote viral moments on behalf of entertainers, on behalf of dancehall artists or so forth. Because sometimes the artists, their career kind of wane and they're trying to get media attention. Nobody's talking about them. They're not trending on Twitter. They're not trending on Facebook or on Google. And something comes up and they start trending. They do something very crazy and they start trending. All right, so we will continue our discussion next week. I have 2 more minutes. I'm hoping that you are now seeing the relevance of public relations as a management function and how it is distinct and different from marketing, how it is distinct and different from publicity. We will continue our discussion next week. Any questions, concerns, comments before we go?
Not for me, sir.
Not for me, sir.
WhatsApp.
Say that again?
Or may I be added to the WhatsApp group for the for this course?
All right, hold on. Let me. I think you guys have me. Which number you have? Because I have 2 numbers. I'm going to share the link right now, and you can click on it and join.
Share the link.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. Share the link. Because invite, copy link. And here we are. All right, just click to make sure that you have joined before we go. For the other students, I think we had a very good class. You can go. I don't want you to be late for your other lecture. I just want to ensure that Cassandra is a part of the WhatsApp group.
Good night, sir.
Have a good night. You know what I didn't do? I need to claim host to ensure that I don't. Let me just go back. I have to claim host.
Where is it again? Public relations. Right, here's the host key. I forgot to claim host. I must claim host. Come on, where is it? It's on the chat. Claim host. I haven't taught in a while, so. All right, I claim host. All right, guys. Bye, everybody. See you next week. Have a great weekend.